Well, welcome. Today is Tuesday, January 18th, 2020. This is episode 105. We're talking about friends and our loneliness. I'm going to really jump into concepts of who do we call friends, this idea of perfect versus perfect, all caps perfect. And also, I have a journal article here that talks about Facebook users who ruminate and compare themselves to their friends experience increased loneliness. So I encourage you, let's jump in. So, who do you call a friend and how do you rate them as friends? It's an important question. It's important realization that there are best friends out there. There are friends, there are acquaintances, there are complete strangers. And so coming to understand that there are those differences is key in understanding later on this article talking about Facebook. Fortunately, Facebook's been around for a while and it's really ruined this concept of friends. Everyone becomes your friend. I have over 1,000 friends on Facebook. In reality, they're not all friends. Sorry. Probably most are acquaintances. Very few are best friends. But it's one of those that there is a realization of what is a friend. When I'm in a counseling session and I'm talking to people, clients, about this concept of friends, what would your best friend say about this? They look at me and you can see the light bulb dimly going off. And that realization of, well, who would be my best friends? Do I have best friends? Have I alienated my best friends? What's the difference? How does this affect me in my daily life? And so I want to go ahead and examine this because this best friend is the person that would probably drop anything and everything and come to your rescue. They're the ones that are there through the thick and the thin. They're the ones that you go ahead and can even argue with, but still maintain that friendship. They are there through thick and thin, like I said. But for many people, they can clump everyone into the best friends category, especially those extroverts. Everybody's my best friend, everyone that I come to meet. It's almost a jaded look to see that experience of who they come in contact with automatically relates to them as a best friend. But in truth and reality, not everyone is going to be there when you end up in the hospital or needing some advice because of a marital problem or being able to announce the birth of your firstborn child. But for many people, they go, okay, well, the second category then is friends. And friends are those that you do have a connection with. Even someone who would go ahead and drop anything and everything for you. But a friend is different than an acquaintance because an acquaintance is by situation. Maybe you work with them. Maybe you go to church with them. Maybe you go to school or class with them. Those acquaintances associate to you because of that situation. Without that situation, there truly is no communication. There truly is no relation, and it's not there. And that's fine. That's fine to have relationships that are situational, ones that when you're studying together for a class, or when you're out in the field working together, that you're going to work well together and have those relationships. It is quite different, though, when you take those people from acquaintances and move them up into the ranks of friendships. Outside of work, yeah, we get together on the weekend and go fishing. Yeah, we go ahead and text often. Not about work, but about life. That is that developmental part of friendship. But oftentimes, when I ask clients, where was your friend during all of this? Who are they? When you lost your job, where did they go? And it's that realization that truly they were acquaintances and not friends. And so I want you to realize here that as we talk about Facebook users, their concept of what they use in quotes as friends is not to true reality. Even as Facebook is talking about changing to this metaverse, to the people that you'll interact with online differently, it still becomes a concept. Would that person be a friend outside of Meta, outside of this constraint? Or are they truly glorified acquaintances? Whenever you need a cup of coffee that's always smooth and never bitter, try Cameron's Coffee. It's the closest I've personally found to the perfect roast. There are so many flavors to choose, but I always seem to reach for the breakfast blend. And for those busy weekday mornings, try the EcoPods. Click the link below to order yours today. Now, what's happened with social media over the past years, we have gone to this civilization that truly posts all that is perfect. We try to get the best selfie. We try to take the most beautiful picture of where we're located or traveling to. We also go ahead and express those videos in time to give people a snapshot of what we're doing. I would even say 99% of them are all the positives. Very rarely is there a post of the everyday, of the mundane, of the pain, the negativity that we experience day in and day out in our daily lives. It doesn't get the likes, it doesn't get the views, it doesn't get the acknowledgments. So we go ahead and we express the perfect so that we can get that gratification, that dopamine release in our brains, that gratification of people accept me, people love me, people want to be my, quote, friends. Instead of it coming down to what true humanity and community is about. It's accepting our faults and our failings, because as humans, we are not perfect. And so that's where this challenge comes in this month of January, as we're looking at health, as we're looking at diet and exercise, as we're looking at true life and celebration of life and worth and value. I'm here to challenge what and how you post. Because yes, it would be great to go ahead and say we're going to go on a social media detox or a phone detox for 21 days or a month. I'll probably talk about that in a future episode maybe, because there are effects from it. But here, we're strictly talking about changing up what's posted. Now, I'm just not saying that it has to be all doom and gloom, but look for the support of others in your daily life. If it's a gray day, guess what? It's a gray day and it's not sunshiny and bright and blue with wispy clouds, but it is that imperfect. Because nothing is truly, all caps, perfect. Looking for a snack or a fresh nut to cook with? I'm a Nut has a variety of delicious nuts to choose from. Walnuts, almonds, cashews, pumpkins, and much more. All gluten-free, non-GMO, kosher, paleo, keto-friendly, and a money-back guarantee. Click the link below to order yours today. So the article today comes from a posting on SciPost from November 15th, 2021. It is titled, Facebook Users Who Ruminate and Compare Themselves to Their Friends Experience Increased Loneliness. So this study was originally published in Helion, January 19th, 2021. And it's really looking at that people are increasingly reporting a lack of social connection in their lives. And it's really prompting scholars to suggest that loneliness is becoming a public health concern. With the growing use of social media, it may be a contributing factor to this loneliness. And these platforms, these social media platforms, which ironically were created to facilitate social networking, may actually be inadvertently leaving users feeling more disconnected. Now, from this study, they looked at Facebook users. They recruited a sample of 214 users. 81 were female, and also 88% were white British. The participants ranged in age from 18 to 72, And they completed an online questionnaire that included measurements of loneliness, depression, and the tendency to ruminate or think about things again and again and again and again. So in the surveys, they asked the participants, how often did you engage with posting comments? And how often were they just passive activities like scrolling and going through news feeds on Facebook? They were trying to look at the difference with upward social comparisons. So comparing yourself to others who seemed better off than you, compared to that downward social comparison where they're looking at others who seem to be doing worse than they are on Facebook. Now, what they found in the study was contrary to previous studies. One of the parts was that they looked at users with Facebook versus that active versus passive use. They didn't find a significance linked to loneliness. But where they did find the link to loneliness was when participants reported a greater tendency to ruminate. That is to think more deeply about something for an extended amount of time. They were more likely during that rumination to feel lonely. See, previous research suggested that mindfulness training can reduce rumination. And the study authors proposed that mindfulness may be a helpful tool to lower rumination and maybe help reduce loneliness among social media users. But once again, the researchers are suggesting that maybe action should be taken by social media platforms to help mitigate this experience of loneliness amongst its users. One example, they said maybe Facebook could promote mindfulness tips in their news feeds to help reduce rumination. Or maybe the platform could publish reminders to users that content that people post online, that it reflects their best moments and not really reflect real life. So to change that and to make those reflections real life, which was part of that challenge I talked to in the previous segment. What if we just post our everyday? Will we get responses from others? Will a gray day, rather than a beautiful sunset, truly get a response and a comment from those that matter most to us, that are true friends? So, of course, limitations. This was limited by a cross-sectional design, and they weren't there to rule out other contributing factors of depression, rumination. So a lot more needs to be done here. A lot more needs to be conceptually used when it comes to social media platforms. And a lot of that comes down to you, the user. What are you looking for? Are you truly looking for accolades that you posted the most beautiful, perfect, with all caps, picture of a sunset that you really aren't experiencing? Is it truly to chum the waters for a response because you're on vacation in Hawaii and knowing that everyone else that's around you is 3 feet in snow? Or is it truly a way to communicate? Truly a way to associate? Truly a way to break down those long distances, that they become stronger, truer relationships? Relationships where you won't go and say, oh yeah, I haven't heard from them in a while. It matters. It matters to our mental health. And so that's why I encourage you today. And this comes directly from the words of Eleanor Roosevelt. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Peace to you today.